You guys ready? Okay.
No, you're fine.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. It's good to see you. We are here today to share the House Republicans' vision for the future of Oregon. A future where more people can afford to buy their first home, where our schools equip and prepare our students for their best and brightest future, where taxes are not the solution to every problem. Oregonians deserve to have a government that works for them. And House Republicans are excited today to share our approach to that mission. My job is to advocate for those that are not being heard in Oregon and are not being served by the status quo. I hear from Oregonians every single day that tell me that they're dissatisfied, they're frustrated, and they do not feel seen or heard. Housing 3,000 people over the course of 3 years is not good enough. The remaining 23,000 people across our state that are homeless are suffering. I just want to point out this is equivalent to the size of the town of Roseburg. This is a very real challenge for our state, and it is time that the solutions recognize that the status quo is not solving this problem. Earlier this week, someone died of hypothermia in Multnomah County. We cannot afford to continue to approach homelessness in the way that we have been. We don't have 20 years to get this done. That person didn't have one more night out in the cold. Market rate housing does need to be more affordable. Our regulatory environment is also driving up those costs, and we need to get serious about those solutions. We must raise our expectations of what can, must, and should be done inside this building. It's the responsibility of lawmakers inside this legislative process to use the $140 billion that taxpayers have entrusted us with to support the needs of everyday Oregonians. Budgets reflect priorities, and our commitment remains to get Oregon back on the right track. This legislative session, we will be introducing legislation and working across the aisle to improve the lives of Oregonians. We will focus on the top issues that Oregonians themselves are facing every single day. High taxes on gas and income, expensive housing, inadequate education options for families, and chronic homelessness, which is affecting our ability to have safe, drug-free neighborhoods. Joining me today is the House Republican caucus. We are committed to working together and working with our colleagues across the aisle to getting Oregon back on the right track by empowering communities and families and focusing on the challenges that impact their everyday lives. So today I would like to introduce you to a few of our caucus members that are working on these top issues. I'd like to start off with Representative Lucetta Elmer, who will share our vision for lowering costs for Oregonians, including cutting taxes. Representative Elmer.
Good morning. My name is Representative Lucetta Elmer, and I represent House District 24. House District 24 is most of Yamhill County and a little bit of Polk County. This session, I'm excited to be serving as the Deputy Leader for the House Republican Caucus. Outside of these walls, I'm a wife, a mom, and a small business owner. Oregon has so much to offer, and that is easy to see. We have the beautiful Oregon coast, we have the lovely mountains, we have the high desert, and we have the Willamette Valley with all the beautiful wine. We have a declining population, even with all of this, and we also have a stagnant business growth. Oregonians should be able to afford to live here in their own home state and keep more of their paycheck. Every day, Oregonians are facing rising costs, and I'm sure all of us are very aware of that, from our gas to groceries and even our rent. These factors are forcing families to make tough decisions about whether they can even remain in their home state. It costs 10% more nationally to live in Oregon than in other parts of our nation. We are also ranked as the 8th most expensive state, and Oregon is ranked as the 6th highest state for income tax. So the solution, we want you and your family to keep more of what you make by cutting your income taxes and opposing new taxes and regulations that increase the cost of living. House Republicans are committed to ensuring that you will not be taxed on tips and overtime. That's a very tangible thing that we can do. We are committed to cutting income taxes. We're committed to eliminating Oregon's hidden taxes, sales tax on essential goods like diapers, toilet paper, and prescription drugs. We're committed to opposing new gas taxes, income taxes, and tolling that increases the costs for Oregonians. And we're committed to working to lower taxes for seniors by freezing property taxes and reducing the costly estate tax. We will continue to elevate these very important conversations. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Representative Elmer. And now I would like to introduce Representative Vicki Breeze Iverson to discuss housing and homelessness. Representative Breeze Iverson.
Thank you. I am Vicki Breeze Iverson, State Representative from House District 59. I also am the Vice Chair of the House and Homelessness Committee. The cost of housing in Oregon is 22% higher than the national average. Oregonians can't afford the status quo. The only solution on the table right now is more money for government housing. Republicans have policies this session that will produce more housing by partnering with private sector. The state economist said that we need 100,000 more homes to fill the housing need that we have today. To solve this housing crisis is going to require three things: land, more infrastructure, and streamlined regulations. We need land to build homes. There's not enough buildable land. We have 2 Republican bills that will immediately open land opportunities. While these won't solve the whole problem, it's a start. We can protect prime farmland and make it simpler for cities to expand their borders and build housing. I have a priority bill forthcoming to achieve just that. Republicans are key to establishing a program in 2024 to help cities with infrastructure needs to develop more housing. We look forward to expanding that program this session. Because we are in a housing emergency, we need to make sure that regulations aren't the reason we can't end it. Republicans are evaluating all existing and new regulations with this lens. Does it build houses? Republicans have opportunities for creative solutions to help reduce costs for families and build generational living, as well as lending opportunities to open up dollars for first-time homebuyers. Oregonians are increasingly frustrated at the lack of housing opportunities. Republicans have solutions to get us out of this crisis. Billions won't buy our way out. Oregon can't afford it. Oregonians deserve better.
Thank you, Representative Breeze Iverson. To discuss our priorities to increase education options for families and improve outcomes for our students is Representative Boomer Wright, who's a member of the Education Committee.
Thank you, Leader. It's great to be with you today. My name is Boomer Wright. I'm a dad, a grandparent, soon to be great-grandparent, husband, state representative for the Coastal District 9, beautiful Coastal District 9, and a former teacher. I believe every Oregon child deserves a quality education, an education that provides a positive environment for learning for all, an education where there is an opportunity to succeed for all, an education that provides upward economic mobility for all, and an education that provides opportunities and experiences to learn, to grow, to build a foundation for the future of all our children. As a former public school teacher, principal, superintendent, I believe our public schools have simply lost their way. As the old saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, you'll wind up somewhere else. Well, we're there. As evidenced by a decade of poor educational performance, our current educational system's direction, which has been forced on our public schools, has placed the misguided interest and priorities of bureaucrats and ideologues ahead of learning, ahead of student success, ahead of student upward economic mobility, ahead of expanding opportunities and experiences, ahead of building a foundation of knowledge and skills where our children can build their future. They have forgotten that we must always do what is in the best interest of our children. Families and children need to be at the center of our educational priorities, not ideology. Our focus must always be to meet the educational needs of our students. House Republicans are here to listen and support, not dictate to our students, our parents, our teachers, our administrators, staff, school boards, and communities about what they need. We have heard and listened to parents, students who want to raise the cap on open enrollment, fully fund summer learning programs, expand career technical educational opportunities, provide greater access and funding to charter schools, and provide greater safety for our students. Next week, we will promote our educational agenda and invite parents and families to join us in Salem to make their voices heard. We also extend a hand to our Democrat colleagues to sign on to our proposals and work with us to expand school choice and deliver education to our students that they deserve. We have great teachers, talented and bright students, supportive families, and resilient communities. It is time to roll up our sleeves and work together to ensure all Oregon students achieve their dreams of excellence and success. Our future depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wright. And last, but certainly not least, is Representative Darcy Edwards, who will be discussing how we can get drugs out of our neighborhoods and end chronic homelessness. Representative Edwards.
Thank you. I'm Darcy Edwards, and I represent District 31, which is the western side of Washington County and Columbia County. Beautiful area. Oregonians deserve to live in a safe, drug-free neighborhoods. Homelessness should be a rare and temporary, not chronic and permanent. Despite record spending, homelessness continues to increase, and the problem is getting much worse. Homelessness, addiction, and crime are threatening livability and public safety in our communities. At the same time, the way we currently treat our neighbors suffering from mental health and addiction is not compassionate, lacks accountability, and is making the problem worse. Last year, homelessness increased by 13%, and Oregon's homeless population is now the 8th highest in the nation. This issue is personal for me. My son is one of the 23,000 Oregonians who are experiencing homelessness, mental health, and addiction on our streets. In a rare moment of clarity, my son chose to get help. He so desperately needed, and our family so badly wanted for him. He faced a 3-week period to get into treatment and ultimately fell back into the cycle of addiction due to the enabling practices of so-called low barrier shelters that allow predators to keep Oregonians addicted. House Republicans want to end the homelessness crisis with a compassionate approach for all Oregonians. We can offer a targeted recovery services to addicts on our streets and hold those who deny services accountable. We have legislation to repeal out-of-touch laws that allow camping in our parks and on our sidewalks. We must also audit the effectiveness of current investments. Oregonians deserve to know if these programs that are costing billions, with a B, of dollars are working. Whether it's for our kids walking to school, a family hoping to enjoy a nice meal at a downtown restaurant, or a family like mine that desperately wants to see their son clean and come home. We need to look at our policies and fight for change. A tent is not a home. Oregonians are frustrated and deserve to live in safe, drug-free neighborhoods. Allowing our neighbors to live on the streets is a literal death sentence. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Virgil Osborne. I'm from House District 2, which is Douglas County. I'm going to put my glasses on for this. What a tough act to follow. Thank you. I'm really proud to be part of this caucus. I'm also the Republican Party whip, so for the House caucus. So as Oregonians, we're struggling to afford housing, everyday necessities, with homeless spiraling out of control, drugs running rampant, and schools not meeting standards. They're looking at us for solutions. They're looking at our party. As House Republican Caucus, we're here to challenge the status quo, not stand idly by. We're not going to do that. That means not allowing laws to pass that raise the cost of living and harm our state and our kids and their futures, and I think you heard that today from many of our folks. It means also working across the aisle to come up with solutions that are practical, fair, and refusing to allow fear-mongering to stand in the way of important things that need to get done. So with that, I'm going to close. There's a lot's been said, and now we're going to take some questions.
Julia, we'll start with you.
Julia Shumway with the Capital Chronicle. I know you said a lot about wanting to stand up against possible gas tax increases or other things that raise the cost of living. Realistically, when Democrats hold 35 seats here, 18 over in the Senate, the governor's office, what can you do to stop them from succeeding?
Yeah, Oregonians themselves cannot afford the list of massive tax increases that have been proposed this legislative session. And what we can do is be a voice for those Oregonians. And that's what we're doing today, is we are letting Oregonians know that we hear them and we see them and we stand with them. And we will not be voting for bills that raise the cost of living for them. Now, this process is one that involves compromise and collaboration and really good communication across the aisle. So we have to hope and believe that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle that absolutely do have the votes to pass taxes if they choose to, would instead pause, work with us, and serve those Oregonians who are saying they cannot afford these proposals today.
Yes.
Steve Rollins with K2 News. Going back to what Representative Brees Iverson said about working with the private sector to develop more housing, how do you regulate those landlords from, once those people get into those houses, from raising those rents and then eventually possibly putting those people out of those homes that they live in?
Yeah, thank you. Representative Brees Iverson.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. We do have many opportunities in front of us. We've got a lot of conversation that really centers around affordability, which would, to what you're asking, put deed restrictions on homes. We have to find a careful balance that we don't put a deed restriction on a piece of property that doesn't allow that homeowner equity into the future to move to their next home. So it is a careful balance with good communication and conversation across the aisle and with our private sectors, the developers, the cities, to find the balance that allows folks to buy their first home and move into their second home on down the housing spectrum, so that we can continue to open up opportunities for those first-time home buyers.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You might have some online.
Okay.
Dick, I know you had some questions. Can you hear me? We can hear you.
For the leaders or anybody else, you haven't specified which, bills by name, but what indications do you have as to whether the Democratic leadership will allow discussion of these bills, or whether they'll just be sidelined? And related question, do you feel that Republicans and their ideas are being included in the legislative decisions and discussions so far?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Dick. House Republicans represent Oregonians across this state. Democrats aren't 90-10 in Salem. We are here to represent the voices of our constituents and certainly people across the state that are not being well served by the status quo today. And so it's our work and our job to invite our colleagues across the aisle to listen to those voices and to work with us and to consider our bills and our legislation as a part of the solutions that our state so desperately needs to move forward. And I would say that, you know, in various committees and various issues, we continue to work collaboratively with our partners across the aisle. There's no doubt that there are strong partnerships that are bipartisan inside the state capitol. That's alive and well. The challenges that we face are these larger issues that Oregonians are the most impacted by, that they are calling on us to stand up and address those challenges and fix them. Those are the ones that we're the most anxious to have the opportunity to be at the table and to have our proposals heard, in particular to lower the cost of living inside this building. And so I invite our Democrat colleagues to join with us and to do everything we can within our power to lower the cost of living for Oregonians and to consider actual tax cuts. I know a lot of the conversation we've been having has been about systems that need more money and this agency needs more money. Let's be real candid. Those agencies are currently failing Oregonians. Whether or not that is spending 4 hours on hold with the employment department or whether or not it's only completing 20% of the projects from the 2017 transportation package, we have agencies that have their hand out that are not fully serving Oregonians. So we need accountability. We believe we need tax cuts for Oregonians to be able to continue to live and grow and thrive here. And we will continue to advocate for that on behalf of Oregonians. Thanks, Dick.
Yes,
Yeah.
Julie.
So we've heard a lot from House Republicans, including yourself, Leader Drazan, yesterday about trans kids playing sports. I think we had at least 3 press releases, a lot more said online. How are you deciding how those issues that didn't come up today, those other peripheral issues, how do you prioritize those and decide where you're spending your political capital?
Yeah, well, what we have talked about today are the issues that House Republicans are unified on behalf of Oregonians. That isn't to say that there's not a lot of very important issues that aren't on that list of issues that we believe affect absolutely everyone. Cost of living, expensive housing, affordability, homelessness, education, these are issues that affect everyone across our state. But issues like boys participating in girls' sports is certainly an issue that is important to us as House Republicans. We believe in girls' sports, and we believe that the voices of those female athletes should have the opportunity to be heard. And we certainly have members of this caucus that have been working on this issue a long time and care very deeply about the future of girls' sports in the state of Oregon. So that has a place in this process. It has to have a place in this process. We are here to represent the needs and concerns of all Oregonians, and that will continue to be a part of what our caucus members individually focus on, talk about, and advocate for.
Question? Yes, sir.
Question. Leader Drazan, Bryce Dole with Oregon Public Broadcasting. I was just wondering if you could give us an update about discussions around the transportation package. Specifically, kind of like what are some of the things that are being weighed right now around possible solutions to the budget deficits that transportation agencies are facing?
So I would say if you haven't seen a transportation package, I haven't seen one. And so we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves to comment on a proposal that doesn't yet exist in public spaces and doesn't even exist with me behind closed doors. And so we have caucus members that are leading on these issues and engaging on behalf of our caucus. And I certainly would defer to them moving forward. The members of that transportation committee will be the lead voices for our caucus when it comes to those conversations. But as of today, there isn't a transportation package to respond to. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm Amy Green with Oregonian. Hi. I think it would be helpful for Oregonians and for me as a writer to see if you could share a list of some of those high priority bills on each of these issues we've talked about.
Yeah, happy to do that. Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be a
So
part of this.
emailed out.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Jake Thomas with the Lund Report. I didn't hear anything about the Oregon Health Plan, which is all we write about the Lund Report. But it's, I understand this is going to be a tough budget year, and there might be cuts from Washington with regards to Medicaid.
Yeah.
And as you know, the Oregon Health Plan covers a lot of people in a lot of Republican districts. I just want to get your thoughts at this point about just making sure the plan is funded or not funded, or just how you're approaching it at this point.
Yeah, budgets express priorities. And here in Oregon, we need to continue to recognize that our most vulnerable need to be protected throughout this budget process. And House Republicans absolutely will ensure that our most vulnerable are taken care of when it comes to sustaining their access to health care. On the other side of that conversation, you know, you have to follow that through line all the way through to the end. We see on the other side of the aisle proposals to take scarce general fund resources and spread it thin to new projects and new populations and expand what we're doing for how many people at any given time. We can't afford a lot of that. If we are gonna hold on to core services for people that are eligible for the Oregon Health Plan, we need to prioritize spending inside the state. And I would also say, you know, when they transition for our CCOs to be able to also include housing in the list of things that are part of our social determinants of health that they're spending money on, you begin to go down this slippery slope when how much is enough? When are we going to remember that the Oregon Health Plan existed to create a list of health services that would be provided at a population that would be served? And at this point, that is ballooned into everything for everybody all the time. And that's going to be a tough budget conversation potentially moving forward, but we're committed to continuing to serve our most vulnerable. Thank you.
That's all the time we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.